After 6 years in an older woman, younger man relationship, Matthew postponed the wedding for the third time. This time, I didn't ask for a reason. He seemed a little surprised and, for once, took the initiative to explain. I have an important business trip. He didn't tell me that a young girl was going with him. They kissed by the Seine, set off fireworks by the sea, and watched the stars together. A friend warned him, "Tone it down. If that wealthy older woman of yours finds out, things could get ugly." Matthew didn't care. "It's fine. She's soft-hearted. Nothing will happen." Later, Matthew ran into trouble, and his buddies urged him to ask me for help. I replied, "I do have money, but I'm not that soft-hearted." Chapter 1. Dinner with clients tonight. I won't be home to eat. I bought you a gift. I'll give it to you later. When I received Matthew's message, I had already been busy in the kitchen for 3 hours. Recently, we had both been too busy. Even though we lived under the same roof, we barely had time to talk properly. Today was our 6th anniversary. I had rarely cooked lately, but today I made an effort and even prepared a gift, wanting to talk to him about some things. It seemed today wasn't the right time after all. After eating dinner alone, a courier delivered an exquisite gift box. It must be the gift Matthew mentioned. I didn't expect it to be a set of provocative fishnet lingerie. I looked at myself in the mirror, fair skin, a still slender figure, yet a trace of unhidden exhaustion beneath my indifferent expression. I am 6 years older than Matthew. Next month will be my 32nd birthday. I'm no longer young. The sexy lingerie felt a bit loose on me, especially around the cups. Did he buy the wrong size? I rummaged through the box, looking for the delivery slip, and only then noticed there were a few things inside I had never seen before. I picked up a collar with a chain attached and froze in place. Matthew and I had never played with things like this. The sound of the keypad lock came from the entryway. Matthew opened the door and came in. When he saw the lingerie on me, he paused for a moment. A flicker of panic crossed his eyes before he quickly regained his composure. "Do you like it?" he asked. I looked at the branded shopping bag in his hand. Matthew hesitated, then handed it to me. "This is also a gift." Inside was a luxury handbag I often used, subtle, elegant, in a grayish-purple tone. This was the gift he had actually meant. I smiled, adjusted the slipping strap on my shoulder, and finally understood it wasn't the wrong size. It was the wrong address. Chapter 2. When I came out after changing into my pajamas, the house was filled with the strong scent of herbal medicine. Matthew was in the kitchen, boiling Chinese herbs for me. His phone was on the shoe cabinet. For some reason, though I had never checked his phone before, an impulse suddenly struck me, and I picked it up and unlocked it. There was nothing unusual on his social apps, except for one group chat that kept flashing. It was a group with several of Matthew's close buddies. "Going to a hotel on your anniversary? Matthew, you're way too bold. You're getting married next month. Why haven't you cut things off with your little mistress yet?" Exactly. Marry a wealthy beauty and save yourself 20 years of struggle. Don't be stupid. Matthew, hurry up and cater to that older woman properly. Matthew replied, "If you like catering to her so much, you do it. I don't even want to go home and face her. Just thinking about marrying her makes me feel a little scared. Once a woman passes 30, she's like a rotting rose. She even smells old now. I'm really sick of her. I just worry she won't be able to take it if we break up." Someone said, "Just keep distancing yourself bit by bit. Once the feelings fade, breaking up will come naturally." Someone else warned him, "You should still be careful. Robin isn't someone to mess with. If she finds out you're cheating, things could get ugly." Matthew didn't take it seriously. "It's fine. She's soft-hearted. She won't do anything to me." That person still advised him, "Capitalists are never fools. You've worked so hard for her company all these years, you'd better plan ahead. Otherwise, you'll be in a very passive position when you break up." Matthew didn't reply anymore. Just as I was about to exit the app, a new message suddenly caught my eye. "Matthew, I wasn't careful today and left a mark on your neck. Be careful yourself." A dull pain spread through my chest. I tapped into the girl's profile through the private message. Her latest video showed the floor-to-ceiling window of a luxury hotel. The girl was taking a selfie by the window. Behind her, a man was taking off his shirt. The muscular back that entered the frame was solid and painfully familiar. I didn't need to see his face. I knew it was Matthew. Their chat history had been wiped clean. Apart from this new message, there was nothing else. Calmly, I marked the message as unread. Before Matthew came out of the kitchen holding the bowl of medicine, I put the phone back where it was. Chapter 3. In fact, I had noticed Matthew drifting away long ago. Starting half a year ago, he stopped liking to cling to me. Overtime and business trips became more frequent, and he always had a reason not to come home. I kept telling myself that it hadn't been easy for us to be together. He was just temporarily distracted. He wouldn't really betray me. So I didn't confront him. Instead, I chose to give him time and space, waiting for him to figure out what he truly wanted. But now I suddenly realized that his coldness and distance over the past 6 months had been preparation for a breakup. Matthew set the bowl of medicine on the dining table and called me over to drink it. He seemed to suddenly remember something and anxiously patted both pockets of his clothes. I pointed toward the shoe cabinet. Looking for your phone? It's over there. Matthew hurried over, picked up the phone, and glanced at it. His expression shifted slightly. He suddenly turned to me and asked, "Did you look at my phone?" I held the bowl of medicine blankly. "Look at what?" He let out a sigh of relief. "Nothing. Hurry up and drink the medicine." The herbal medicine for premarital body conditioning. I'd been drinking it for 3 months already. It was unbearably bitter. Frowning, I finished it in one go. Matthew immediately handed me water to rinse my mouth and a piece of candy to suppress the bitterness. Matthew went to take a shower. While those words kept echoing in my mind, no wonder his friends warned him to be careful of me. After all, in our circles, I was notorious for being ruthless and cold-blooded. That year, my father suddenly suffered a stroke. Fresh out of college, I was forced to take over the company overnight. Those turbulent days were brutally hard. So many people had their eyes on my family's piece of fat meat. I clenched my teeth and showed no mercy, barely managing to hold on to red heart jewelry. In the past few years, after regaining my footing, I struck even harder, severely crippling 2 rival companies that had taken advantage of us back then. From 22 to 32, over 10 years, I transformed from a reclusive girl who only wanted to be a painter into the legendary female executioner of the business world. Only Matthew thought I was soft-hearted. Chapter 4. Wrapped in the blanket, I let my thoughts run wild. I didn't know how much time had passed when the mattress beside me suddenly sank. Matthew came up behind me, pulling me into his arms. His warm palm rested on my cold lower abdomen. Gently rubbing it, he buried his face in the back of my neck, lightly kissing my shoulder. There was a hint of grievance in his voice. "Why do I feel like you've lost interest in me lately? Are you tired of me?" I stopped his hand as it tried to move lower and gently pushed him away. "I've been drinking too much herbal medicine lately. I feel like my whole body smells of it. I'm afraid I'll bother you." Matthew froze for a moment. "How could that be? You're always the most fragrant, darling." I cut him off. "Go to sleep early. I'm tired." After the lights were turned off, Matthew tossed and turned beside me for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "Darling, I want to start an independent company." In the darkness, I smiled silently. "Sure." Matthew seemed a little surprised. "I don't mean anything else. I just want to do a brand with a younger style." His explanation sounded a bit stiff. "Don't they say you shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket? If I branch out on my own, it can also spread the risk." I agreed to everything. How could I not agree? A person cannot climb a wall that is already leaning toward them, nor can they stop someone who is determined to leave. I'm no longer young. These truths, time taught me long ago. Chapter 5. The new company went very smoothly. I didn't ask Matthew where the money came from. I heard that he had transferred and liquidated his shares in Red Heart, taken out loans, and brought in partners to invest together. Matthew didn't ask me for a single cent. I understood. He wanted to make sure the new company had absolutely nothing to do with me, so that breaking up later wouldn't be complicated. The new company was called Promise, also a jewelry brand. Only then did it occur to me belatedly that the girl who had left a mark on Matthew's neck was named Ivy, the same Ivy he had mentioned before. Back then, he had complained endlessly, saying the company's new intern designer, Ivy, was immature and had poor design skills, delicate and useless, completely worthless. When did this completely worthless girl become someone he was intimate with, someone he could even start a company with? dreaming of a future together? And my future had turned into baggage Matthew couldn't wait to throw away. I opened a piece of software I hadn't used in a long time and began sketching designs. When Matthew came back and saw the ring sketches on the screen, he looked a little surprised. "Why are you suddenly designing again?" Perhaps thinking of Red Heart, which he had abruptly cast aside. His expression stiffened. "You don't need to worry about Red Heart. Once I get through this busy period, I'll take care of both. You should focus on conditioning your body. Don't worry about the company," I said calmly. "It's not for the company." Matthew froze, his expression dark and unreadable. I had once said I wanted to personally design our wedding rings. He must have remembered that, because he hesitated before speaking. "When the new company gets on track, let's get married then, okay?" This was the third time he had postponed the wedding. This time, I didn't ask for a reason. Matthew was silent for a moment, then, rarely, took the initiative to explain. "The gemstones for Promise's new products need to be selected at overseas mines." I smiled faintly and agreed out loud. "All right. I knew it. We would never get married." Chapter 6. Matthew packed his luggage, gave my cheek a perfunctory kiss, and left in a hurry. He didn't tell me that the so-called business trip was with Ivy. What he didn't know was that long ago, Ivy had already added my social media account. She had always been quiet. It was only after traveling with Matthew this time that she began posting frequently. I figured Matthew must have given her the confidence, so she couldn't wait for me to take the hint and step aside. Thanks to the young girl's eagerness to share, I followed their entire trip from afar. They strolled along the Seine, holding each other tightly in the night. They went to an amusement park and shared a sweet kiss when the Ferris wheel reached its highest point. The day before returning home, they went to the seaside together, under the deep blue night sky. The stars looked like a sea of silver sand. Fireworks shot into the air, blazing as they formed the initial letter of promise across the sky. Ivy posted a close-up of their interlocked hands. One of them was painfully familiar. Long fingers, defined knuckles, and a vicious scar across the back of the hand. That hand had been intertwined with mine through countless nights. And in the most dangerous moment, it had been pierced through by a sharp blade while protecting me. The only unfamiliar thing was a faint, pale mark around his finger. The ring that once sat there was gone. He had taken off our promise ring and reached for someone else's hand. A chill settled into my heart. The phone slipped from my fingers onto the expensive carpet. Soundless. Chapter 7. I met Matthew at the hardest time of my life. That day, after finishing contract negotiations, I returned to my hotel room to find a beautiful young man inside. "President, my name is Matthew. Boss Chan arranged for me to come." He stood up nervously, his posture straight and tense. His cool voice carried a barely noticeable tremor. I looked at him. The boy in front of me didn't seem like someone who would do this kind of thing. There was no trace of servile submission on his face. His obsidian-like eyes stared straight at me. In them were surprise, nervousness, and a hint of helpless confusion. Business partners sending people over as part of hospitality was nothing unusual, but I had no interest. I took out some cash and placed it on the table. "This is for a taxi. You can go back." Matthew's ears began to turn red, as if he felt humiliated. I said gently, "It's fine. It's not your fault. Just say I don't want to be disturbed." Matthew said nothing and didn't take the money. After hesitating for a moment, he slowly walked toward the door. As he passed by me, he clenched his fists, his voice rough and strained. "Can I stay?" Matthew told me that his appearance here was part of a scheme against me. Boss Chan was just a smokescreen. The one who arranged everything was an elder I trusted deeply. Cameras had already been installed in the room. The wine had been drugged. I asked him calmly, "Since you came, why are you telling me all this?" Matthew looked up at me. "My mom needs a lot of money for treatment. I owe them 200,000. Fine beads of sweat formed at his temples. A trace of resolve flashed through his eyes. "If I'm willing to work for you, can you keep me?" "I can do anything." Chapter 8. Matthew and I reached an agreement. He went back and told that person that I was highly guarded and hadn't touched him, but seemed interested in him, worth playing the long game to catch a bigger fish. After that, Matthew appeared by my side frequently and became my exclusive favorite. A year later, he and I worked from inside and out, setting a trap for that elder and driving him straight into bankruptcy. Consumed by hatred, the man ambushed me in a parking garage. He was holding a sharp knife when he suddenly lunged out from behind a pillar, charging straight toward my heart. At the critical moment, Matthew stepped in and took the fatal blow for me. The blade pierced straight through his left palm. Blood poured out. His face turned deathly pale from the pain. Yet he panicked and asked if I was okay. When he saw that there was only a shallow wound on my chest, he finally let out a breath and smiled at me. As long as you're fine. I couldn't understand why Matthew did that. We were merely partners. The so-called exclusive favorite was nothing more than an act. In private, I was very cold toward him, and he kept his boundaries well, never once crossing the line. Later, he said that in that moment, he couldn't think of anything else. His only feeling was fear. Fear that something might happen to me. I am someone emotionally detached. I cannot understand why people would disregard their lives for love. My family of origin never taught me what love was. My parents had loved each other passionately when they were young, but after marriage, they quickly became a resentful couple. My father's illegitimate son was only 3 years younger than me and had always been openly supported outside. I never saw what my parents looked like when they were in love. From as far back as I can remember, all I saw was a cold, heartless man and a woman filled with bitterness and resentment. My mother refused to divorce, even to her death. I thought it was because she had no ability to survive on her own. So I promised her that even relying on me, she could continue living the life of a wealthy madam. She jabbed my forehead with her sharp fingernails. Why should that cheap woman and her bastard get to benefit? She forced me to give up art and study business instead. If you can't beat that bastard, then the two of us will die together. After my father had a stroke, that mother and son began to stir. The clan members all harbored their own schemes. My mother grabbed me by the throat and hissed, "Xiao Shu, if you don't fight, you're putting your neck right under someone else's blade." I did everything she told me, except for marriage. On that point alone, I never gave in. I refused the political marriage she arranged for me. She earnestly tried to persuade me that Matthew, if you really like him, just keep him as an assistant by your side. Publicly. Don't go too far, I replied calmly. I swore when I was little that I would never live my life the way you and Dad did. She froze. Her face suddenly drained of color. After several days of silence, she said to me, "Xiao Shu, you have your own life." Mom was being narrow-minded. Your parents didn't set a good example for you, but Mom hopes you can be happy. My mother tacitly allowed Matthew and me to be together, and I tacitly allowed Matthew to teach me what love was. Unfortunately, he didn't teach me well. Just like back then, when I couldn't understand why he took the knife for me. Now, I still don't understand why the hand that once shielded me from death would take off our promise ring and reach for someone else's hand. Chapter 9. After the knife incident, the way Matthew and I interacted began to change. He started awkwardly courting me, and I learned to soften myself, trying to date like other girls. But something between us always felt off. When I went to his school to see him, his classmates jeered. "Matthew's rich woman is here." Matthew's face flushed red. I knew that wasn't shyness, it was humiliation. So I never went to his school again. Matthew seemed extremely busy, juggling several part-time jobs a day. I was busy too. Often, we wouldn't see each other for 10 days or even half a month. Later, during his summer break, I specifically took 10 days off so he could go on vacation with me to Sonya. He refused, saying he couldn't get away from work. I went to Sonya alone, yet on his classmates' social feeds, I saw photos of them hiking together. In almost every picture, there was a young girl standing beside Matthew. In the group photo, everyone was looking at the camera, except her. Her sparkling eyes were fixed on Matthew. For the first time in my life, I experienced an indescribable sense of irritation and sourness. To me, this relationship had been an experiment from the start. Since the experience wasn't good, I decided to end it. I sent Matthew a message, roughly saying that we didn't need to meet anymore. If he needed help in the future, he could contact my assistant. The next morning, when I opened the door, Matthew was sitting outside my room, hugging his knees. Chapter 10. Matthew hurried to his feet, nearly stumbling in his panic. I instinctively reached out to steady him. He clutched me tightly, his voice trembling with a sob. "Can we not break up?" I didn't quite understand. If he would rather go hiking with his classmates than be with me, why was he unwilling to break up? Matthew's face flushed, as if the words were hard to say. I don't have the money to cover a trip to Sonia. Just for that? Wasn't it the same before? His face was full of embarrassment. Before, I worked for you, you were my boss. Now, you're my girlfriend. Without thinking, I blurted out, "Isn't your girlfriend the one you went hiking with?" Matthew froze for a moment, then his eyes lit up instantly. "Darling, are you jealous?" I suddenly felt a little awkward, pushed him away, and turned to walk inside. Matthew chased after me and wrapped his arms around me, his voice brimming with light, unrestrained joy. "Robin, do you really like me?" He buried his face against my neck, his voice muffled. "I rejected her a long time ago. I've never been alone with her. You have no idea how much I like you. These past few days, I've missed you so much I was almost losing my mind." That night, we walked along the beach for a long time, until deep into the night. Matthew took a pair of silver rings out of his pocket and asked nervously, "I made these myself. They're not worth much. Would you be willing to take them?" We put the rings on together. In the darkness, he quietly turned his head away and wiped his tears. That was the first day we truly became a couple. Unfortunately, the sky that night was heavy with clouds, not a single star in sight. I felt a sense of regret. Matthew lifted his hand and gently tucked the windblown strands of hair behind my ear. "We still have so many tomorrows ahead. I'll definitely watch a sky full of stars with you and set off fireworks just for you." How ridiculous. The stars and fireworks we never got to see. He's seeing them now, with someone else. I let out a self-mocking smile and dialed a number I hadn't contacted in a long time. "I heard you're back in the country. If you have time, let's meet." Chapter 11. After hanging up, I went to the kitchen and threw all the remaining packets of herbal medicine into the trash. I took the best bottle of red wine from the cabinet and poured it into a decanter. Because of body conditioning, I hadn't touched alcohol in a long time. My phone kept lighting up, messages from Matthew, reminding me not to forget to drink the medicine. The herbs need to be rinsed first, then soaked in cold water for half an hour. After that, change to fresh water, 3 bowls boiled down to 1 bowl. Remember to drink it while it's hot. Drinking it cold will hurt your stomach. I'll be back the day after tomorrow. I miss you. I couldn't help but smile bitterly, with a beauty by his side. He still had the energy to text me, playing at sincerity so convincingly. Turns out, I didn't know him as well as I thought. I flipped the phone face down on the floor and drank glass after glass of red wine. I didn't know how much time passed before the wine glass slipped from my hand. I came to my senses and looked around. The wall clock had already passed midnight. I poured myself one last glass of wine and gently raised it. "Happy birthday, Robin, 32 years old." Chapter 12. I woke up around noon the next day with a splitting headache. There were more than a dozen missed calls on my phone, besides Matthew. There was also Nathan. Only then did I remember that I had arranged to meet Nathan that evening. We were family friends who had known each other since childhood. Back then, our families had considered an arranged marriage, but it fell through because I refused. After he went abroad for work, we kept in occasional contact, but we had never met in person again. Nathan looked at me with a hint of emotion in his eyes. "You've changed." I gave a self-mocking smile. "Got old, right?" "No." He shook his head. "You're still young and beautiful. It's just that the cold, world-weary look in your eyes isn't as obvious anymore. You feel more human now." The waiter brought over a cake and flowers. Nathan smiled gently. "Happy birthday, Robin." I took the bouquet and joked. "Just flowers? No gift?" "There is one," he said. "I'll give you a wish. As long as it's something I can do, I'll agree unconditionally." I laughed. "That's a bit heavy, isn't it? Aren't you afraid I'll ask for the moon?" Nathan looked at me deeply. "I'd be honored, and I'm looking forward to you asking." Because of the drinking the night before, I had barely taken a bite when a wave of acid surged up from my stomach, choking my throat. Nathan hurried over and patted my back to help me catch my breath. A furious voice suddenly rang out. "What are you doing?" Chapter 13. I looked up and saw Matthew at once. Ivy was holding onto his arm. Their outfits were carefully color-coordinated, clearly a couple. Following my gaze, Matthew looked down and abruptly shoved Ivy away. Ivy's face went a little pale, but she stayed calm, quietly standing behind Matthew. And you are? Nathan spoke first. Matthew replied stiffly. I'm Robin's boyfriend. Nathan folded his arms, glanced back and forth between Matthew and Ivy, and spoke with a teasing tone. You're Robin's boyfriend? Then, who is this young lady wearing couple outfits with you? Matthew opened his mouth, but his momentum collapsed instantly. His eyes began to dart toward me. This business trip went pretty well, and Ivy worked hard too. So His gaze drifted unconsciously toward the table. When he saw the cake and flowers, his voice cut off abruptly. A moment later, he walked quickly up to me, his eyes reddening as he pleaded in a low voice. Robin, let's go home and celebrate your birthday, okay? I replied calmly. This is an old friend I haven't seen in many years. We haven't finished our meal. Matthew fell into stubborn silence. I glanced at Ivy and let out a soft laugh. Didn't you say you'd be back tomorrow? Someone's waiting for you. Go on. Matthew's face turned pale. My patience ran out, and my tone suddenly turned cold. Matthew, don't interrupt my dinner with my friend. Matthew's face tightened. His clenched fists trembled almost imperceptibly. After a long pause, he muttered, Fine, I'll wait for you at home. Without sparing Ivy a glance, he turned and walked straight out of the restaurant. Ivy shot me a vicious glare and hurried after him. Nathan had the red wine cleared away and replaced it with warm fruit tea. He didn't ask a single question about what had just happened. I took a financing proposal out of my bag and handed it to Nathan. He flipped through it casually and smiled. Don't tell me this is your birthday wish. I smiled with confidence. This is a win-win collaboration. I just happened to bring it to you. We'll talk business properly at the company later. Chapter 14. After dinner, I sat in the car for a long time. In the end, I sent Matthew a message. We're over. Move out before dawn. Then I turned off my phone and stayed the night at a hotel. When I went back the next morning and pushed the door open, Matthew was slumped on the sofa, clutching his head. On the dining table were a cake, elaborate dishes, red wine, and roses in full bloom. The roses, left overnight, were still fresh and delicate. Matthew, however, looked utterly exhausted, his eyes bloodshot. His gaze was gloomy, like ice sealing everything beneath it. His voice was hoarse. Are you taking revenge on me? I didn't answer. I walked past him toward the walk-in closet to change. Matthew suddenly grabbed my wrist and hugged me tightly from behind. Scalding tears fell onto the back of my neck. Are you never going to forgive me? I pried his fingers open one by one, took something out of my pocket, and placed it in his palm. Take it back. Don't come here again. Matthew's face turned ashen as he looked down at his hand. There lay the silver ring he had put on my finger by the sea. His whole body began to tremble. He staggered back a few steps, his throat forcing out a broken sound. Why? You can just want me when you want, and throw me away when you don't. I had no intention of arguing with him. I took out my phone. Pack up your things and leave. If you don't have time, I'll arrange for someone to help you right now. Matthew stumbled backward, bumping into the table. A glass of red wine fell to the floor. He stared blankly at the mess all over the ground, then futilely tried to fix it. Shards cut into his hand. Drops of blood fell onto the carpet. He seemed not to notice, stubbornly picking up the fragments. I frowned. Stop it. We'll throw the carpet out later anyway. Matthew slowly straightened up and suddenly let out a sarcastic laugh. Just because it's a little dirty, you're throwing it away. Do you know how expensive this carpet is? Of course you don't. Why would you care about things like that? As long as you dislike something even a little, you can replace it whenever you want, throw it away whenever you want. I'm the same as this dirty carpet, aren't I? He turned and staggered toward the door, his voice light, as if murmuring in a dream. Throw it all away. I don't want it anymore. After the door closed, the room fell into silence again. My hands trembled slightly as I rolled up the stained carpet. The reason I didn't come back last night was because I didn't want to argue with Matthew. A breakup should be dignified. At this point, was I supposed to chase after him and ask whether he had ever been sincere? And if he had, so what? If he hadn't, so what? The ending would be the same either way. I only regretted one thing, that night by the sea. I shouldn't have put on the ring he gave me. If there had been no beginning, there would have been no ending. Chapter 14. A few days later, the company convened a meeting with all department heads of Red Heart. Matthew was still vice president of Red Heart, and Ivy, his assistant, was there as well. I introduced Nathan as an investment banking manager and announced two important decisions. First, Red Heart would partner with Nathan's investment bank to bring in a large round of funding and expand its scale. Second, Matthew was relieved of his position, and the labor relationships between Red Heart and both Matthew and Ivy were terminated. The room erupted. Amid the hushed whispers, Matthew's face went deathly pale. After the meeting, the company held a small welcome reception for Nathan. I accompanied him, introducing him to the department heads. Several female employees looked like they were witnessing prime gossip, whispering excitedly, "So Robin and Vice President Matthew broke up? This one's even more handsome. A mature man suits Robin better. Don't you know? Their families are old acquaintances. I heard Robin used to be his goddess. This is too good to ship." Figures. An older woman, younger man fling is just for fun. When it comes to marriage, you still need someone on equal footing. Matthew's expression darkened to the point of dripping. He wrapped an arm around Ivy's waist and swaggered out of the venue. Chapter 15. I personally took part in designing the new product line, preparing for a luxury jewelry design bidding project. Matthew and Ivy's promise was also thriving. I wasn't surprised. Matthew had always been capable. Over the past few years, my promotion of him hadn't been solely because of our relationship. With my backing, his rise had been smooth, fame and fortune both in hand. At the same time, he had brought corresponding value to Red Heart. If possible, I would have preferred for us to fade from each other's lives, never crossing paths again. But Matthew didn't think that way. Promise was extremely high profile, blatantly poaching quite a few of my clients. Matthew even hired paid trolls, hyping up his romance with Ivy online until it went viral. Ivy was an influencer designer, and Matthew had also gone viral before thanks to his looks. The two of them starting a business together, even the brand name itself was a not-so-subtle love confession. Romantic and idealized, their love story was tightly bound to the company's image, and the new products they launched sold exceptionally well. Privately, people in the industry were saying that the female executioner had gone soft, letting off a former lover who had backstabbed her with barely a slap on the wrist. Some sighed that in the end, she was still a woman. No matter how ruthless her methods in business, she couldn't escape being trapped by love. I neither confirmed nor denied it. On the day of the bidding, Red Heart and Promise met head-on in the final 1 out of 2 selection. The finale product Matthew presented turned out to be the Star C ring I had designed. He stood tall, speaking eloquently as he explained the design concept. After deliberation, the panel of experts ultimately chose Promise's design. When the results were announced, Ivy was so excited that she couldn't help but kiss Matthew on the cheek, drawing a wave of good-natured laughter from the crowd. Ivy hugged Matthew tightly. Amid the applause filling the hall, Matthew's gaze passed over Ivy's head and locked straight onto me. I acted as if I hadn't seen it, calmly packed up my things, and left with my assistant. Chapter 16. After the bidding event, Nathan asked to see me. After dinner, he walked me home. When we said goodbye downstairs, he gently took hold of me. "Robin, I came back for you. This time, can you stop rejecting me?" I tried to pull away, but he tightened his grip and pulled me into his arms, his lips brushing against my ear. "I've been waiting for you all this time. Everyone knows, you're the one in my heart." I didn't push him away. Instead, I asked softly, "So you've been living like a monk all these years?" Nathan froze, then gave a wry smile. "That's a bit harsh, isn't it? I've dated a few, no point hiding it from you. To be honest, every one of them had a bit of your shadow." I looked straight into his eyes and said seriously, "Nathan, don't insult them. And don't insult you and me either. Crushes and stand-ins, those labels are actually very boring. The birthday wish you gave me, I want us to be mutually trusting friends and business partners. There's no such thing as eternal love, and no such thing as eternal friendship. There are only eternal interests." Nathan let out a soft sigh and released me, his tone easygoing yet tinged with regret. "You really have changed, Robin. The old you wouldn't have said something this polished. You would have just made me feel like trash directly." From the shadows beneath a distant tree, A tall figure walked over. Matthew's expression was so ugly it looked like he wanted to kill someone. His hands were shoved into the pockets of his trench coat, hair tousled by the night wind, as if he'd been waiting there for a long time. Matthew spoke with biting sarcasm. "You couldn't even wait the time it takes to go upstairs? You're starting right here?" Before Nathan could speak, I stopped him. "Nathan, you should go first," Nathan said gently. "Call me when you get home." Chapter 17. Do you need something? Matthew stayed silent. When I turned to leave, he suddenly grabbed me. "Don't go." The hand gripping my wrist tightened. Embarrassment twisted his face as he clenched his teeth and said, "Do you look down on me now? I stole your design. Why didn't you come question me? You're not surprised at all that I did this, are you? After all, from the very beginning, when I appeared in front of you, I was never anything good, right?" I pulled my hand back. "Matthew, what exactly do you want?" He suddenly shouted. "I want to beat you once. I want you to come looking for me, curse me, hit me, call me shameless and despicable. You can do anything to me. But why are you so calm? Why do you do nothing at all? Do you just not care about me? Am I just a clown to you?" By the end, his voice broke. "Did you never love me at all?" I couldn't understand why he was turning things upside down. He was the one who had changed. And yet here he was, accusing me of being too calm. Did love have to look ugly to count as real? Growing up, I had seen my mother's countless hysterical breakdowns, and my father's endless cold indifference. They hurled venomous curses at each other, smashed expensive porcelain into shards all over the floor. Then one would slam the door and leave, while the other collapsed on the ground, sobbing in despair. Was that the scene Matthew wanted? I looked at his young face and suddenly found myself with nothing left to say. "Go home, Matthew." Before turning away, I still softened one last time. "Give up the winning bid. Don't sign the contract. This is my final act of goodwill toward you." Chapter 18. Matthew didn't do as I said. It was part petulance, part revenge. He bought trending topics, making promises, signing with a major brand known to everyone. A few days later, Red Heart released an official statement online. Former Vice President Matthew had plagiarized Red Heart's design. The company would pursue legal responsibility. Red Heart released the police report and the copyright registration date of the Star C ring, hammering promise beyond dispute. What made netizens cry "this is too good" and mentally script an entire love-hate drama was the design blueprint magnified 50 times. Hidden clearly within the wave patterns were the letters RM. I hired professional online promoters to guide netizens into digging up my past with Matthew, along with the timeline and evidence of his cheating with Ivy. The controversy kept escalating. Matthew, who had calculated with sincerity, and Ivy, who knowingly became the other woman, were condemned across the entire internet overnight. Consumers who had bought products for the sake of their so-called love story rushed to return them. Promise, which had debuted in glory, collapsed in the most brutal way possible. The luxury brand swiftly terminated its contract with Promise and pursued liability and compensation according to the law. What shocked the industry most was that the contractual penalty amount was extraordinarily high. Only then did people in the circle come to their senses and sigh. The female executioner was still the female executioner. As for the contract, I did indeed have someone subtly hint things to the other company. In exchange for those interests, next season's collaboration had already been secured. Chapter 19. As for that ring, it truly wasn't designed for the company in the first place. It was a wedding ring I had conceived for a long time. Inside the matching starry sky ring, I had hidden the letters RM. That day, it was just a momentary impulse. I pulled out the design draft to take another look. He glanced at the sketch and assumed the design wasn't finished yet. In fact, the final piece had already been completed half a year earlier. Out of habit, I had registered the copyright. I placed the finished ring deep in a drawer and watched as Matthew slowly grew cold and distant. Someone as decisive as me, someone used to swift and ruthless choices, hesitated for far too long. That day, I carefully prepared dinner, wanting to talk things through with Matthew properly and make a decision together. Matthew didn't come home for dinner. That wrongly delivered gift made the decision for me. Love should be a journey of mutual nourishment, not an eternal shackle. Losing a relationship does hurt, but I tried my best. Since we couldn't go on, then this was where it ended. I never intended to drive Matthew to ruin. But my mother was right, you can't put your neck under someone else's blade. So in Matthew's company, I had placed more than one person. The moment I learned he intended to take my ring to the bidding, I picked up the knife. Only after passing the trial of love did my life truly begin. Chapter 20. Promise went bankrupt with astonishing speed. Even after liquidation, all of Matthew and Ivy's assets together still couldn't fill the massive hole left by the compensation. Someone told me that Matthew's group of brothers had urged him to borrow money from me to get through the crisis. I had that person relay a message for me in their group chat. I do have money, but I'm not that soft-hearted. The group instantly fell silent. Soon after, Matthew disbanded the chat. Chapter 21. I scheduled annual leave and took my mother on a trip around the world. I used to think she was weak and incompetent, but in truth, she spent her entire life tightly grasping everything she could. In its own way, that was also a kind of success. A year later, I entrusted the company to a professional management team and arranged for my mother to oversee things. I told her that her 50s were the prime years for ambition and that she could retire at 80. With my approval, I went to Italy alone to study oil painting. 2 years after returning, I became fascinated with rock climbing. I hired a private coach at a climbing gym. The young guy turned out to be my fan. After recognizing me, he pulled out a postcard printed with one of my paintings and shyly asked if I could sign it. Later, we gradually became familiar. A sunny, cheerful, handsome guy, with a clean, warm smile. Even when he climbed halfway up the wall, his hair fluttering in the wind looked fresh and bright. One night, he sent me a message. Want to date, secretly? No, typo, not break up. I meant not break up. I smiled, my fingers tapping out a light reply. Not going public is fine, but not breaking up, that might not be. Chapter 22. Matthew Extra, a rotten man. On their 6th anniversary, Robin told him to come home early for dinner that night. Matthew agreed, but Ivy stopped him in the underground parking garage, clinging to him coquettishly and refusing to let go. He remembered that the lingerie he had bought for Ivy a few days earlier should have arrived by now, along with plenty of new ideas. Temptation stirred. He messaged Robin, saying he had something to deal with and would be home late. At the hotel, with his clothes already off, Matthew's phone suddenly notified him that the order had been delivered. The recipient was Robin. Cold sweat broke out instantly. He shoved Ivy away and rushed home. When he walked in and saw the lingerie on Robin, his heart sank completely. Fortunately, Robin didn't think too much of it. Of course she didn't. Robin was far too proud. How could she ever imagine that he would cheat? Not just Robin. Everyone else also thought his cheating was insane. Everyone knew that meeting Robin was the greatest stroke of luck in his life. As a business escort who had been cleaned up and sent to Robin's hotel room, he had somehow caught her eye and been supported all the way to vice president of Red Heart. Who wouldn't envy him? No one believed he truly loved Robin. Everyone advised him to cling tightly to that wealthy woman, to recognize his own place. Only Ivy treated him like a god, believing he deserved all the good things in the world. One night, after walking Ivy home from a gathering, she cried and begged him not to leave. She said once would be enough, that she wanted nothing, only that she didn't want to regret it for the rest of her life. In Ivy, Matthew saw a reflection of his former self, driven by impulse. He stayed. After one time came countless just this once. In front of him, Ivy lowered herself to an almost pathological degree, willing to do anything. Obey anything, Matthew said. That reckless, self-destructive abandon intoxicated him. During those 6 months of cheating, Matthew didn't dare face Robin. He felt filthy beyond redemption, so he lived in a vicious cycle, restless and anxious on one side, recklessly venting all his pressure onto Ivy on the other. That day, his brothers warned him in the group chat not to be too arrogant, telling him to serve the wealthy older woman properly. Matthew felt inexplicably irritated, wanting to smash his phone. In a burst of shame-fueled anger, he lashed out with cruel, cutting words. Robin was old, like a withered rose, smelling of age. He wasn't clinging to anyone's coattails. He hadn't broken up only because he couldn't bear it, afraid Robin wouldn't be able to take it. The moment he finished typing, he regretted it. He tossed his phone aside, feeling it was all meaningless. Chapter 23. Matthew wanted to start a business. He wanted to get married with dignity, He wanted the media, when reporting on the wedding, to let the world know that Robin's husband was also a successful entrepreneur. During his years at Robin's company, Matthew had earned a high income and held company shares. But his salary and dividends all came from the company, and the company belonged to Robin. Standing in front of her, Matthew always felt like he owned nothing. He wanted to start his own business. Ivy, whose family was modestly well off, put up all her savings to help him. With only one request: the company must be called Promise. Matthew agreed, and at the same time told Ivy that they should end things. That from now on they would be purely business partners. Ivy cried miserably, saying she wanted to travel with him once as a couple, just one time, to part on good terms. She planned the trip to be romantic and sweet. Yet Matthew grew more and more uneasy. He felt as if something was slipping from his grasp. Matthew decided that once he got back, he would get married. For all the wrongs he had done to Robin, he would spend his entire life making amends. But he never imagined that he would lose the chance altogether. Robin didn't even give him a single word of confrontation. She simply turned around and went on dates with a man of equal standing, leaving Matthew behind as easily as throwing away a stained carpet. Chapter 24. After the bankruptcy, the compensation still fell far short. His friends urged him to borrow money from Robin. Robin had someone pass along a message, saying she wasn't that soft-hearted. A distant memory surfaced in Matthew's mind. Robin had once asked him why he thought she was soft-hearted. Was it because, during their first encounter at the hotel, she had chosen to help him? Matthew hadn't answered. No one knew that it wasn't actually the first time he had seen Robin. Back when he was still in middle school, he had seen her in a park, a cool, aloof girl who sat by the lake every day, quietly sketching, so beautiful she seemed untouched by the mundane world. At that time, Matthew was just a summer temp, doing cleaning work in the park. One day, while sorting through discarded trash, he cut his hand on some debris. The wound was deep. He held up his hand, blood pouring out. Standing there in helpless confusion, Robin put down her sketchbook, came over to check, and said coolly, "There's rust on the metal. You need a tetanus shot." She glanced at what Matthew was wearing, took a few $100 out of her wallet, and handed it to him. Embarrassed, Matthew tried to refuse, but she said, "It's a loan. You can pay me back next time we meet." But she never came back to that park again. Matthew knew she was afraid he wouldn't be able to repay the money and would feel awkward. That was when he knew this woman was soft-hearted. Years later, while he was in college, Matthew discovered by chance that this soft-hearted woman was an alumna from the same university. He was overjoyed. He etched the name Robin deep into his memory and decided that once he made something of himself, he would go to her. But later, his mother fell gravely ill, and he owed $200,000 in loan shark debt. Matthew was forced to scheme against someone he had never met. He knew that after that day, he would no longer be worthy of appearing in front of her. Chapter 25. No one knew what Matthew felt when he saw Robin open the hotel room door that day. The woman he had hidden in his heart for so long turned out to be the very target he was supposed to scheme against. Matthew had never imagined that their reunion would happen like this. He stood there stiffly, staring straight at Robin, completely at a loss. Robin was still so soft-hearted. She gave him money for a taxi and told him to leave. He walked out mechanically, but then realized that the mastermind behind it all would definitely continue targeting Robin. Matthew seized the opportunity and stayed by Robin's side. Unfortunately, he couldn't stay to the end. After the company went bankrupt, Ivy's parents had people beat Matthew badly. Only then did Matthew learn that almost all the money Ivy had invested was her family's entire savings, secretly transferred without her parents' knowledge. He didn't report it to the police. He only had someone pass a message to Ivy. "We're even now. From here on, we have nothing to do with each other." Matthew was left with a minor disability. It took half a year for him to recover before he prepared to leave and return to his hometown. A few friends saw him off. Someone told him that the massive compensation written into the bidding contract had been a trap set by Robin. The friend indignantly cursed Robin for being cunning and ruthless. But Matthew laughed. In his heart, he silently made a wish. "Robin, this is the right thing to do. From now on, never be soft-hearted toward anyone again." That day, when he saw the letters RM hidden in the ring design online, he cried until his heart ached in front of the computer screen. Only then did he finally understand. He had once held a sky full of stars in his hands. In the end, it was simply that a rotten man like him didn't deserve it.